Radio Voice Italia.
Philadelphia.
Class is now in session. Christopher Columbus University is on air from Philadelphia and broadcasting worldwide from within the shadow of Marconi Plaza. Radio Voice Italia is proud to present a recurring segment with civil rights author, professional researcher, and renowned Christopher Columbus expert, Robert Felix Petrone, Esquire.
Buongiorno tutti and welcome to Radio Voice Italia's Christopher Columbus University, where we teach you the truth about the greatest hero of the 15th and 16th centuries, Christopher Columbus, and update you on the international efforts to preserve Christopher Columbus's legacy. I'm your host, il professore, Robert Petrone. Today on our Christopher Columbus University segment, we have some news updates. Our top story is something I'm going to save for last today, so that today's guest can tell you about it. Is the term top story broadcasting lingo for first story or most important story? Maybe they're usually the same thing in the mainstream media, but I'm saving the best for last today. So, on to our second story. In New York City, the Conference of Presidents of major Italian American organizations made history this week with the Columbus Project, a new and bold initiative that will reach the halls of Congress, 10,000 journalism outlets, and thousands of Italian American groups and organizations. The project was launched using a full-page print ad in the Wall Street Journal and the Washington Post, and online at the Conference of Presidents website. The Columbus Project kicks off with a press release that calls out the New York Times after that paper refused to publish our full-page print ad, a letter mailed to all members of the Democrat and Republican parties in Congress, as well as to Congress's Italian American caucus. You can see the print ad, the press release, and all the letters to Congress at preservecolumbus.us or the Conference of Presidents website. Also in New York City, the New York Times, as I just mentioned, has refused to run the ad from the Conference of Presidents of major Italian American organizations that debunks the slanderous myths about Christopher Columbus as a racist, rapist, maimer, murderer, slave owner, slave trader, grifter, genocide heir. It's not surprising. This is the same newspaper that applauded the 1891 mass lynching of Italian Americans in New Orleans, the largest mass lynching in American history, and referred to Italian Americans as ruffians, descendants of bandits, and a pest without mitigations. Are we surprised that the New York Times declined to run this ad for the Conference of Presidents of major Italian American organizations? The Wall Street Journal and the Washington Post have run the ad, which reads, quote, "Some people say Columbus didn't discover America. They can't deny that he did unite the world." In Washington, D.C., Primo magazine is publishing a 3-part article titled History of Italian American Discrimination at the City University of New York, which you can read for free online at onlineprimo.com. That's onlineprimo, rendered as one word, .com. As I record this episode, part 1 of the article, written by Santi Buscemi, Vice President of the Italian American Legal Defense and Higher Education Fund, is online. Parts 2 and 3 are soon to follow. In Rochester, New York, despite ranking second in New York State for its number of individuals of Italian descent and 9th in the entire nation, and despite having a Little Italy neighborhood listed on its official city website, the city of Rochester refuses to celebrate any Italian American heritage events or the contributions of Italian Americans, much less any Christopher Columbus Day parade. Mayor Lovely Warren, who has been indicted on federal endangerment and gun charges, has refused to allow any celebration of an Italian American Heritage Day at City Hall, despite the city's having previously committed to an annual celebration and flag raising. In past years, she has refused to attend those. Silvano Orsi, president of the Little Italy Association of Rochester Incorporated, stated, quote, "Italian Americans are and always will be an important part of the diverse cultural fabric of the city of Rochester, whether the lovely Warren administration wants to respect or recognize that or not. This current city's administration bigoted policy of indifference towards Italian Americans is absolutely shameful. We are not second-class citizens. We do stand strong and united with great pride for our heritage and culture, end quote. All over the country, and indeed the world, people have celebrated, by the time this episode airs, their 2021 Christopher Columbus Day holiday with parades and dedications to the great navigator, explorer, discoverer, and civil rights activist. To all our Columbus celebrating fratelli around the country and around the world, I do hope your celebrations are healing, informative, and inspirational. I promised you our top story would be saved for last. To bring us this great bit of news, we have with us a very special guest and a personal hero of mine. I keep calling her a real Valkyrie in the war between the Italian Americans of Philadelphia and the administration that has been discriminating against them for so long. She was personal assistant to Philadelphia's first and only Italian American mayor, Mayor Frank Rizzo, past president of the Columbus Day Committee, now called the 1492 Society, which puts together Philadelphia's annual Christopher Columbus Day Parade and Festival, and is now secretary of the board of the 1492 Society. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the one, the only, La Capitana herself, and I'm not talking about Columbus's flagship, Jody Della Barba. Jody, welcome to Radio Voice Italia's Christopher Columbus University, and thank you for appearing on our show.
Oh, thank you for that introduction. I am
well, you know,
I'm humbled.
Everybody, all of my guests always say that, but I only have guests on that I'm really impressed by. So, you know, anyway, so Jody, before we get into it, something big happened in Philadelphia on the Friday before Christopher Columbus Day. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, when we were at the flag raising, our lawyer, thank God for him, George Petrone, got news from the judge about the box on the Columbus statue, and she issued a forthwith order to remove the box. And of course, the mayor doesn't understand that the word forthwith means immediately, you know, no hesitation. And I mean, we were thrilled about it. We didn't hear his response right away, and then yesterday afternoon we heard that his first response was not now or ever. I believe that the mayor thinks that he's a dictator and that there are not three branches of government, because he's just ignoring a judge's order. And, you know, it doesn't work that way. He can't just, you know, have his pen and his phone and do whatever he wants. That seems to be the norm these days with certain politicians. So our lawyer, he's working on it, and, you know, we're going to see what happens. But I know that the mayor appealed the first decision to keep the statue, and I don't think he's had a hearing yet on his appeal. And now he appealed this, so I guess he thinks that we're going to wait how long, you know, a year before a hearing about taking the box off, and that's just not going to happen.
I'm sure that's what this is. These notices of appeal are dilatory tactics. I have no doubt. I mean, you know, I'm certain that they are hoping for some sort of appellate relief, but we'll see. And I think you're absolutely right. I also notice a disturbing trend of expanding executive power at all levels of the government. You know,
Yes.
and yeah, very disturbing sort of a separation of powers problem in America these days. Executives are almost modeling themselves as dictators, as you say, and it's troubling. So, Jody, you have been involved with Philadelphia's Christopher Columbus Day festivities, including the parade, for how long?
I think it's about 35, 36 years.
Mm-hmm. Since who was council president?
Council president. Well, she wasn't council president at the time, Anna Vernon. While she was council president, but before that, she always ran the parade through her office, because even before she was a council person, her husband Severino Vernon, and actually, ironically, my husband's great uncle, after the war, well, during the war and during the Depression, there really wasn't a parade because everybody was away. It was a horrible time. People, and during the Depression, people couldn't afford to do, what we do today. So their offices were next to each other on Broad Street. And when Sevi said to his uncle, "Hey, D, how about if we get this parade together?" And they did. And from the early 50s until now, we've had a parade. And we didn't have it last year because of COVID. And about maybe 10, 11 years ago, we had to cancel the parade. We still had the festival because Michael Nutter didn't like any parades. He gave bills at that time to the people running the parade that we were no longer entitled to police and fire and medical assistant or trash pickup. So thank God Congressman Brady went crazy, and the attack on Italians, enough was enough, and on the mummers and everybody else, he put together a foundation with Jerry Lenfest called the Philadelphia Traditions Fund, and they pay the expenses with the city expenses for us. Thank God. So Congressman Brady is a hero. It doesn't matter what party he is. He doesn't care if it's Democrats, Republicans. We're all Italian Americans.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Yeah, Councilman Brady and Anna Verna and her husband Sevi. I mean, they're all the parade is actually dedicated to Anna Verna this year, isn't that right?
Yes, it is, because it was in her heart, and I was very close to her. And when we were talking about the last parade that she did, and she said, "I want you to make me a promise." And this is something Jim Kenney had wanted a long time ago, to never, ever take that parade off Broad Street and put it on Passyunk Avenue or anywhere else. It belonged on Broad Street. It belonged from, marching down south to Marconi Plaza. That's what we always did. And we're the only parade on Broad Street, the only one.
That is great. That is some really great history, all about Anna Verna and her husband Sevi. Definitely worthy of the annals of history of Arnold Toynbee and other great historians. So let me ask you this: although you are often the face of the 1492 Society and the parade, there are a host of people behind the scenes making it happen as well, including Dan Venore, Lou Galdo, Biagio Genovese. Tell us about their Herculean efforts in all of this.
Well, I want to add a few more people in, though, because there's Steve Lauer from Councilman Squilla's office. He puts the whole lineup together. He sends out the applications. He, as you know, if it wasn't for Councilman Squilla this year, I don't think we would have had a parade.
Right.
There was even some people on our own committee that looked at the glass half empty because of the Broad Street run, and the councilman really pushed for it. This is really important. So Lou Galdo, he runs the operation in the park of getting the tents up and the vendors together and all. Biagio's his assistant, and we also have Danny Venore he does the entertainment at the park with the business and some of the singers, and then Pete Shiraki, of course, is in the booth, and then Mike DePillo with Alicia Vitarelli. Pete does some color, and Mike is like our historian in the booth. He knows about how the parade started, and he knows a lot of Italian history, like a lot of South Philly and other places in the city of Italian Americans. We also have Jay Agnes. And Roger Bruno is our money guy, and he's always there collecting the money and making out the checks. Like I said, Jay Agnes, he raises money. I mean, there's Bernadette and Gaetano Di Pasquale are on our committee. Mark Rago is one of the marshals. He helps coordinate from the front of the parade. We also have Dom Sabatini and his son Donald, instrumental in getting our big sponsor this year. Plus, Donald runs all the marshals in the parade. So, I mean, we just have, if I forgot anybody, including yourself, Robert, you're like our walking encyclopedia on Christopher Columbus. and you're very brave, and you're out there fighting for Columbus every day.
Yeah, I find
you
that
and I are two of the people that will mention Columbus and are not afraid.
that's right. Yeah, I find that there is a paucity of courage in this country these days, and so we have to be brave. We had Mike DePilla on the show in the previous episode, and I know I was actually supposed to be helping Biagio this morning do some heavy lifting, but we have this interview, so I had to apologize to him. So this year's Christopher Columbus Day festivities will already have occurred by the time the listeners hear this recording. But as we record this, listeners, Jody and I are still in the midst of it. On the Friday before Columbus Day, the mayor of Philadelphia, who tried to remove our statue but was thwarted by George Petrone, and also the mayor who subsequently petulantly boxed up the statue in the wooden coffin, which the judge has now ordered him to remove forthwith. Because he figured if it had to stay, he issued a proclamation, which was announced at the ceremony accompanying the raising of the Italian flag that you mentioned across the street from City Hall. Can you tell us about the mayor's proclamation?
They haven't done that proclamation for a while, and then I think the last 2 years, Sheila Hess, the city representative, she came out and did it for the mayor. She's part Italian, and she's very pro-Italian and pro-Italian Americans. In the past, the mayor of Philadelphia always did the proclamation, which is kind of a slap in the face when the mayor doesn't do it. I mean, he signed it. To me, it's coming from him. It's just, something he threw us a bone. That's what I think. There was no sincerity in it.
There's no sincerity in it. Yeah, I noticed how it replaced Christopher Columbus Day with Italian heritage, which is, I notice, a typical placating tactic used by Columbus detractors to distract Italian Americans, the last defenders of Western culture and its icons, from the global attempts to destroy said icon. So the parade kicks off by our listeners' reckoning, Sunday with a 10 a.m. Mass at St. Monica's Catholic Church in Philadelphia prior to the noontime kickoff of the festival and 1 p.m. commencement of the parade. We can only hope all has gone well by the time the listeners hear this. But from our vantage point, Jody, what do you expect from Sunday's festivities?
Well, hopefully, first I want to tell everybody to put their Blessed Mother in the window, because if it rains, if it pours, it gets canceled. But this is rain or shine. I hopefully we get a good show and get the mass, because one of the reasons that they're after Columbus is not just because he's Italian, it's because he brought Catholicism to this country. So we really have to stick together on that one. Number two, people are excited. They were forced not to be out of their houses for over a year. And we didn't do anything last year. Plus, we just been slapped in our face and stabbed in our back as Italian Americans. And this is a chance for us all to get together and celebrate our heritage. And, everybody lines up at 1 o'clock. It kicks off for Bordensteiner. We walk down to Marconi Plaza. Hopefully, it's one of the biggest attendances we ever had. I know people are afraid of COVID. It's outside. If you want to wear a mask, wear one. Our festival is going to be full of food. We're going to have tripe and porchetta and all kinds of different Italian delicacies. There's going to be some events for children. There's a band. You're going to be on TV when you they're going to be on TV when they pass by. Channel 6 is doing it from 2 to 3. I'm sorry, 2 to 3. And then it's going to be live streaming from 3 to 3:30, because there's a girls' basketball game that ABC is knocking the parade off for. But at least we're on TV. At least we got one. So I expect everybody to get together and have a great time. We'll be giving out American and Italian flags. Show your colors, show your heritage, and just have a great time.
Is the parade just for Italians?
No, absolutely not. Columbus didn't discover America just for Italians. And it wasn't named America just for Italians. It's for everybody. We have people from every ethnic group involved. So and we are not there for just Italians. We are there to share our heritage with everyone else.
Beautiful. That's a very beautiful sentiment. That's true. Now, the Italian American community in Philadelphia is currently embroiled. Aside from all of this imbroglio over the parade. the Italian American community in Philadelphia is embroiled in several lawsuits against the city and its current mayor, not the least of which is the Common Pleas Court lawsuit about the Marconi Plaza Christopher Columbus statue, in which we won 2 recent victories in that court, saying that the statue does state where it is, and the obscuring wooden blocks around the statue be removed forthwith. But there are also 2 separate federal lawsuits pending for Judge C. Darnell Jones. Can you tell us, how did all these lawsuits start?
2016, an equally bigoted anti-Italian councilperson put out a tweet that said she was offended by the Frank Rizzo statue, looking at it from her window, and she wanted it down. And that was Helen Jim or Gim or whatever they call her. I would say, if you don't like looking at your window and seeing it, ask to have your office moved. Go on the south side of City Hall. And not only did she say that, but then the mayor chimed in the next day and said, well, maybe we should be looking at this. And then the Jane Golden, the head of the mural arts program, who actually asked the Rizzo family for permission to put the Rizzo mural up years ago. It's been there and it never bothered anybody. A few people vandalized it, but never anything really bad. She also said it's time to take the mural down. So within that time, a bunch of Italian Americans got together, and I called George and I asked him, I said, would you help us with this? And we had some meetings. We went to the restaurant where the mural was. Dom Sabatini, Ron Donatucci, God rest his soul. People in the police department who helped us out that, with the FOP paid $4,000 to have the mural coated with a clear coating that where if you put paint, it wipes right off. Jerry Blavitt was involved. I mean, there was a whole bunch of us, putting our heads together, figuring out how we were going to do something about this. And, George said, if they try to do anything, I'm there for you. Another guy named Joe Marorki, he put together a whole presentation on the Rizzo statue, all kinds of letters from people all over the city, Italian, non-Italian, supporting the statue. That was paid for by the people of Philadelphia. There were contributions of $10,000, but also contributions of $5. And it was donated to the city, which they readily accepted, put it in front of the MSB building. Jim Kenney also was a co-sponsor of a bill to name the MSB building after Frank Rizzo. And then all of a sudden, he becomes woke, and, he rewrites history about Rizzo like he did about Columbus. So then it started heating up. The country started hating Columbus, started quoting Howard Zinn's nonsense, and he jumps on that bandwagon about Columbus. And when the unrest started last year, he used the George Floyd nonsense, when he let the city just burn and be vandalized and told the cops to stand down, used that as a reason to take down the statue, that it was a public health thing, a safety thing to take it down. I see there's been 428 murders this year, so it didn't help that. So George, we contacted him, and he got involved with the lawsuit, and the Christopher Columbus thing started, and then everybody went the other and to protect the statue, and the rest is history. George started filing motions and all that stuff, and the night that they tried to take Columbus down, George was able to file an emergency petition to stop it from being taken down. The mayor contacted the union riggers. They wouldn't do it. And then he contacted the non-union riggers. And there was going to be a strike line around the statue if they tried to take it down. They wouldn't have been able to take it down because the unions wouldn't let them. But we got the injunction not to take it down. And then it went from there. And Robert, you got involved, and other lawyers and prominent people in the city got involved with this lawsuit. And thank God for George, because this guy is unbelievable. I mean, I don't think anybody in the country did what he did.
No, yeah, thank God for Georgia. Yeah, I mean, the complaint in the federal civil rights lawsuit against the city before Judge Jones. I mean, that alleges that talks about how the mayor created a priority list for COVID vaccines, and he put the Italian American neighborhood at the bottom of the list, despite the fact that it had a very high geriatric community. And really atrocious stuff. It's not just about statues and murals. I mean, the complaint before the federal civil rights, the federal court is a serious matter. Now, you served. We're running short on time, so I just want to talk about this last topic. You served as personal assistant to the first and only Italian-American mayor of Philadelphia, Mayor Frank Rizzo. So you knew him, his wife, his family personally. What can you tell us about Frank Rizzo, the man, to dispel all this nonsense we hear about him being a racist, fascist, bully, bruiser, all-around bad guy, basically a similar litany to the one levied against Christopher Columbus and Father Junipero Serra and George Washington and all of the icons of our culture?
All right, I'll tell you real fast. He was born in South Philly, never forgot where he came from, which, our present mayor did. He was a devout Catholic. Every time he got a commission, he went back to St. Monica's to be blessed, sergeant, lieutenant, inspector, police commissioner, mayor. He also, while in the police department, there weren't many Italians back then. He joined in 1943. He said that during roll call in the morning, his captain hated Italians, and when he would walk by each one to inspect the patrol officers, he'd say "Dago," and he said, "From that day, I swore if I ever become police commissioner, nobody will be discriminated against." When he became commissioner, first thing he did was integrate the police cars, because before him, a black officer could not ride with a white officer. So if that's a racist, I don't know what is. He also had his bodyguards were black. He hired more blacks in the city of Philadelphia when he was mayor than any mayor per capita. He had on his staff, he had someone gay, and nobody did that then. And the only reason back in the 50s that they may have enforced some laws that were they weren't anti-gay. There were laws on the books that he enforced, okay? You enforce the laws with the books. You don't make your own laws or thumb your nose at laws. He loved animals. I mean, this man used to pick animals up in his car on the way to work, make the cops wash them at City Hall and give them a home, but usually a dog. He would go out every morning, feed squirrels, feed birds. He was unbelievable with that. He loved his family. And the first group that he would arrest were Italians that broke the law, because he said, they reflect on my heritage. He, right before he died, the big racist, on Friday night, he died on a Tuesday, he went to 52nd Street, which is like a big corridor, West Philly, but it's like a Pashock Avenue to the black community out there. He walked there. It was like the Pied Piper was walking down 52nd Street. Blacks followed him, were begging him to come back. You have to win. We can't walk out our front doors. We need you back. You're law and order. When he arrested black criminals, he was arresting them because they were committing crimes against good black people, law-abiding citizens. Or when he arrested Italians, they were breaking the law, or Chinese, or Jewish people, or Irish people. He was law and order. He was never a racist, never. And he was a big teddy bear. He treated kids like you can't imagine. And like I said, animals. My dog got lost one time. He committed a whole radio show to find this dog, and we did find the dog. And I'll tell you that story sometime. It's long. But this guy, it was just, and his funeral tells it all. Because when you rode up to Cheltenham Avenue, to Holy Sepulchre Cemetery, blacks were 5 deep, crying, "We need you, Frank." All right. So if that's racist, I don't know. It's
Yeah.
You don't see people running after Jim Kenney.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah. I always say, I always talk about opposite speak, and this is what these globalists, these woke, these social justice warrior types, these collectivist types, these Marxist types, that's what they always engage in. Everything they say is just like opposite of what is actually true. They just make up lies, but in large part because their ideology adopts this sort of postmodernist philosophy that there is no such thing as objective truth. So if there's no such thing as objective truth, only my truth and your truth, they'll just say anything. So what is your favorite memory of Frank? Was it the dog thing, the radio show, or was it
dog? Yeah, the dog. The dog is.
Can you give us like the 1 minute version of that?
Yeah, my dog got lost, so I called inside the booth, at the radio station. And I think Adrian Lee, who used to write for the Bulletin and then the Daily News, I said, tell the mayor to call me on a break because my dog is lost. Well, all I had to say is the dog's lost. He said, all right. He said, there's a dog. His name is Figaro. He's lost in South Philly. His family is grieving, crying, and I'm driving around in my car listening to the radio. And I'd say every 10 minutes he'd stop. And if anybody finds a dog, there's a reward, $100 reward. So his driver calls me and said, well, South Philly's out looking for the dog. So I'm riding around and I hear him say, the dog's been found. So he tells the story. An old man called him and he said, there's a lady next door. She has that kind of sheepdog. He has an old English sheepdog. But now she's got two in her yard. I think she's got that dog. So he said, can you give me her number? So he calls the lady up and says to her, this is Frank Rizzo, and I understand that you got a dog that doesn't belong to you. And she probably was like, who the hell does he know? So it ended happy. They got the reward. We got the dog back, and that was just the most wonderful thing that could ever happen.
Jody, that is a great story. I love it. That is fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
So, Jody, the listeners and I, as we wrap up, we keep hearing every week on Radio Voice Italia an advertisement for an upcoming segment by you on the station. When is that coming?
I got to work it out with Joe. It's coming probably in November.
Oh, that's awesome. And what is it about?
I guess just different subjects about the Italian community. I guess a lot of it's going to be about what's going on, with our lawsuits and Rizzo and all the stuff down here that's going on. I mean, it's the one great thing that has come of all this, it's really cemented the Italian community together.
Yes, it really has.
And we are not vigilantes. We are law and order, and we are there to protect our community.
That's right. Are you listening, Mayor Kenney? We don't use baseball bats. We use barristers. Got it? All right. Well, so do you have a name yet for your segment, Jody?
No, I don't yet.
All right. Well, maybe I'll help you. I can put my head together with you. We can come up with something catchy.
Good.
But I, for one, await with bated breath for your segment because you are a true champion and a mouthpiece for the Italian American community in Philadelphia and a true powerhouse. And I have no doubt this will prove to be an entertaining and informative segment. Jody, thank you for coming on Christopher Columbus University, and I appreciate all you do for our city.
Thank you. Same to you, Robert. You've been great. Thank you. And Joe, thank you.
Yeah, and Joe too. Thank you too, Joe Morinelli, our producer.
There for us. Thank you, Joe.
Right on. And that's today's class. For more news, articles, and resources about Christopher Columbus as the first civil rights activist of the Americas, icon of Western culture, paragon of Catholic virtue, and greatest hero of the 15th and 16th centuries, visit preservecolumbus.us. That's Preserve Columbus, rendered as one word, .us. And post a little note of appreciation for our webmaster, Tom LaCosta. I'm il professore, Robert Petrone. A presto!
We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon.
We choose to launch a Jody Della Barba segment on Radio Voice Italia.
We choose to go to the moon.
Stay tuned for the historic landing on Radio Voice Italia this autumn. Radio Voice Italia, in your orbit and always reaching for the stars.
Jody Della Barba. Radio Voice Italia.
Philadelphia.